Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear guests, here at the symposium Show Me the World, hello and a very warm welcome at Ringlockschuppen here in Mülheim. My name is Matthias Frense, I'm the artistic and managing director of this venue, and it is a great honor for my team and myself to be able to welcome such a distinguished circle of internationally active curators, just as well as so many colleagues. The Ruhr region is a kind of special place for the arts in general and for performing arts in particular. This great conurbation does not really have a center of its own. It came into being during less than 200 years of industrial mining industry and is now the home of more than 5 million people from more than 170 countries of origin. For some people, this region is an upcoming metropolis which should be marketed centrally and in the global competition between the cities, such as when it was during the Capital of Culture in 2010. For the rest, for decades to come, it is essentially a concentrated collection of more or less provincial towns and communities whose numbers of inhabitants would be in decline, in rapid decline, if it wasn't for various waves of immigration caused by wars and crises around the globe. It is this exciting interface between the aspiration of the metropolis and the provinces, between the death of heavy industry and the desire for rebirth with blossoming creative industries and such like, between this not anymore and not yet, this is where our curatorial work takes place. It's the place where we invest our commitment to predominantly young artists, where we carry out our work finding the right balance between an ambitious program on the one hand and heterogeneous audiences on the other. In addition to the region's 10 municipally financed ensemble theatres and 5 opera houses, Ringlockschuppen Ruhr is one of just 2 production houses dedicated to the performing arts. Our work develops almost exclusively in the form of co-productions within a variety of networks. We see contemporary theatre and its manifold manifestations not only as pure performers' art or pure spectators' art. We tend to interpret it more according to the Brechtian learning plays as a kind of performing research. Watching and performing can permeate and impact upon each other. The experimental procedure and setting ideally remains something both the performers and the spectators are constantly aware of. We see the performing arts as strategies for appropriating social reality, in which we want to involve artists, experts, and visitors in equal measure. So, to give you just one example, it is no coincidence that every year, but this year, we dedicate a considerable proportion of our notoriously tight production budget to a festival with what at first glance might seem to be a rather strange, special theme. If you look more closely, though, the Mülheimer Fazza-Tage turn out to be an extremely productive field of experimentation, especially for young artists. Fazza, a 500-page fragment, perhaps the most unknown, but the most interesting and most multi-layered text that left Brecht behind. The question is how we want to live with each other in a present staggering back and forth between war and commerce. But this is not just a key aspect in Fazza. It could also apply to Ringlockschuppen Ruhr's program in general. During my 8 years working in this theatre as curator and dramaturg, in a way I've actually come to appreciate it when people come up to me and say, well, why do you do all this post-dramatic stuff? Why don't you do proper theatre with real characters and historical, preferably historical costumes and all that? Why? Well, I must admit that I have strongly relativized my long-cherished demand that art should stand up in its own right. The role as curator surely implies the role as a mediator for a particular, albeit heterogeneous audience. After all, we should be putting on both a courageous and demanding program, as well as creating a framework for receiving and reflecting upon this program appropriately. This symposium raises a long list of vital questions about global curating, and I'm more than curious to find out about the range of different relationships with colleagues build up and maintain with their audiences, with all their special characteristics and complexities, and in what way these potential audiences again influence curatorial decisions. So I wish you and all of us exciting days here in Mülheim. I hope that we all get involved in some lively conversations with each other. I would like to say a big thank you to the initiator of this symposium, Sigrid Gareis. I would like to thank Tilman Broschardt and the Spielart Festival in Munich, Dr. Christian Esch and the NRW Kultursekretariat in Wuppertal, and last but not least, Florian Malzacher and Festival Impulse, without whom this event would not have been possible. Thank you very much indeed, and have a great time.
Thank you, Matthias, and a warm welcome from my side as well. Well, I'm representing the NRW Kultursekretariat, a very special institution with a quite complicated name and a quite complex work to do. It's a reunion of the 21 big cities of this federal state with the more or less complicated name North Rhine, today North Rhine-Westphalia, abbreviated with NRW, NRW. You will perhaps hear this abbreviation several times during this symposium. Very warm welcome to all of you, to the guests and partners from abroad, and of course to the distinguished curators from Colombia, Egypt, Nigeria, Singapore, and the USA. Just to talk about the Kultursekretariat again, this cultural office of North Rhine-Westphalia. We have member cities, as you might know, Cologne, for example, Düsseldorf, Dortmund, many others, and of course Mülheim, and I'm happy to be right here now, and thankful for Ringelgruppen to host us and to give very important impulses and inputs to this debate today. Just to give you a little insight in our work, how we are doing our work as a frame for also this conference here. The Cultural Office is funding and initiating and, of course, organizing, as you see, culture and arts in these member cities. I've mentioned some of them. And basically, we are busy with experimental, discursive, and simply complementary kind of add-on to the culture program of what the cities do on themselves, by themselves. Two of our most important programs are essential for organizing this conference here. One is the Impulse Theater Festival, The other one is the International Visitors Program. We will be talking about this Impulse Theater Festival tomorrow, together with Florian Malzacher, the artistic director. So I won't mention this more, but what I want to point out is some aspects of our International Visitors Program we are running together with the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia. It's an international networking program, and it's about connecting and matching people and institutions, aiming at collaborations and exchange of ideas, of know-how, and of course of projects as well. We organized this visitors program now for 6 years and invited several hundred people from abroad, from several countries, many countries of the world, and many projects came out of this collaboration project and connection project called Visitors Program. It's of course about artistic and cultural impact as our work in general, And what we try to do is, as an institution, we are an institution more in a cultural than in an artistic aspect, is we want to give inputs, but of course most important is to give means and to give the framework for the projects and for the artists and responsibles. It's much more important to give these frameworks rather than guidelines or political directives. This is not what we are doing. This is also the main principle of our work of NRW Kultursekretariat, this cultural office, to enable competence and to network and to initiate neglected aspects of cultural work and experimental ideas and programs, for example, in terms of digital arts and many aspects more. And theater is a very important part of our work because all of our cities are cities with their own municipal theaters, which is, of course, giving a certain direction to our work. Well, regarding the competence, I've mentioned the competence convened here. I feel I'm well advised to conclude and to make the space, the scene free for all your intriguing aspects, inputs, dialogues, and exchange. But of course, not without mentioning and thanking many important people for this conference. Matthias Frense, of course, as I said before, and the Ringlockschuppen, but also Randy Günemann, the project manager, who worked here for the Ringlockschuppen and prepared all of this. But most important preparations came from my colleague Ina Gutz, directing this organization and the staging as well. Thank you, of course, to the main partner Spielart Munich and Tilman Brossart, who is here as well. Thank you to Florian Malzacher, mentioned before, and the Impulse Theater Festival, which is partner of this program. And thank you also to Goethe Institute in Munich. They are not represented here, and to Martin Berg. And of course, thanks also to Evelyn Annos, Johanna Klus, and Katrin Tiedemann moderating this conference or parts of it and enriching the discussions and talks. And last but not least, of course, many thanks and great thanks to Sigi Garais, the initiator and spiritus rector of all of this, including its continuation, which will take place in Munich in October. Perhaps you'd like to join also this conference in Munich. Thank you very much, and have a good conference, have a good time here in North Rhine-Westphalia, and enjoy yourself. I'm really curious on all these debates coming up. Thank you.